All right. So, if you could travel anywhere in the galaxy, where would you go?
Anywhere in the galaxy. Well, you're going to test my knowledge of the galaxy with this question because I might give you an inappropriate answer, but I would love to visit the Palladian realm. I would love to see what that's like. I would love to experience that.
That's a good one. Yeah, they seem to be very interactive with us and know what's going on here. So it would be nice to see what they have going on in their little planet and what it's like for them. That's a good one. I like that. All right. And so, if you could describe your energy right now in the form of an element, what would it be?
Mm. I tend to be a combination of water and earth. I have the groundedness of earth, but I have the flow and the emotionality of water. And so oftentimes I'm connected to both water and earth. And that is when I feel my most resonant. It's when I feel my most self energy, when I'm connected to water and earth.
Hmm. Oh, I can definitely resonate with that. Growing up on the Jersey Shore, water is everything, and I also enjoy nature. So that's like the perfect balance, right? Because flowing like water, the emotions can run very deep, but to be able to ground yourself in those emotions is a very powerful thing.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so my first question. Um, something that I definitely had to learn to deal with. But why do you think empaths struggle with setting boundaries and oftentimes feel drained?
I love this question. This question is basically my work. This is what my work centers around. So, an empath is anybody who feels and senses other people's emotions and energy in a way that is not just awareness, but it's perception of. It's actually feeling other people's emotions in their body. So, to answer your question about why it's so difficult to set boundaries, it's because if we have our own emotion that tells us we need a boundary, we are feeling our emotionality around whatever that is, whether it's that we need more space, more time, more resources, whatever that is, then we set the boundary. And then we have our own emotions about setting the boundary. And then the very next thing that happens is we feel the other person's emotionality around our boundary. And so, what happens for so many of us until we learn something different is we'll roll back the boundaries. We'll be like, oh, never mind. Never mind. I didn't mean it. I don't actually want to enforce that boundary because it's so painful for us to feel their emotionality. Sometimes we decide, A, it's not even worth setting the boundary, or B, I am going to just go be a hermit by myself in my house where I don't have to set any boundaries with anybody and I'll just be alone. And even if I'm lonely, that's still better than feeling the way I was just feeling.
Mm, yeah, that is so perfectly stated. When I was working through feeling confident enough to set those boundaries, it was those exact feelings, right? You can strongly feel like, okay, when I set this boundary, this is, I can already put myself in the situation. And, it was easier to just be like, well, I don't need people.
That's right. And the thing is, and this is really important, there's now biological proof that empaths exist, number one, and number two, that they function differently. We know this through brain scans, through research. And so a lot of times we think we're the only one. We think that we're weird. We think that there's something wrong with us. And the truth is, we're just biologically wired to have a different level of empathy and have a different experience around empathy.
Hmm, wow. So the role of people pleasing within that, right?
Hmm.
How do you think people pleasing disconnects us from our authentic selves?
Well, this is a very big question and a really important one, because if we're people pleasing, we're putting the needs, the desires, the preferences of other people above everything else. And when we do that, we're disconnecting ourselves from our own preferences, from our own unique soul missions, from the things that we need to feel resourced and to feel like we can make the difference we're here to make on the earth. And so it's basically like putting somebody else's agenda in front of yours all the time when you're engaged in people pleasing behavior. And the number one thing that causes in relationships is resentment. And so we can destroy our own relationships because of our people pleasing behaviors, because there's a part of us, even if we don't want to admit it, that thinks one day it's going to be my turn and you're going to people please me. You're going to anticipate my needs, but that doesn't happen. It never comes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And again, dealing, like I say, I feel like it's kind of like a web that you just kind of get wrapped up in, and so people pleasing is one of those things. Because I guess one, feeling the emotions of other people, you're like, well, if I can make it their life a little bit easier, maybe they'll have a good energy and I won't feel as bad. Or also, like you said, just putting people before ourselves. I was raised, I have a lot of siblings. I have a very large immediate family. And growing up, I was the middle child, and my older sisters had children. And so at the time, it was like, all right, well, you help out, and whatever you got going on doesn't matter because it's about the community.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, I learned, like, oh, I'm a part of the community, so it's about the bigger picture and not about me. And I had to unlearn all of those things. um what would you say is a good technique to help people overcome people pleasing? Like, what are some practical tools people can put in place?
Yeah. So this is, it's again, it's a really big question, because people pleasing is a behavior and behaviors are practiced, which means it's going to take practice to unlearn the behavior. And so it may not be as quick as implementing one tool one time. It will probably be implementing one tool and trying it and testing it over time to see if it really works. And so it's important to think about the reason that we're people pleasing. If we're people pleasing because it makes us feel better, because we're empaths and we can't stand to have somebody be upset or dysregulated or unhappy, then the first thing that we need to do is to protect our energy from absorbing those emotions and that energy. And so for that, if that's the reason we're people pleasing, I would invite people to try the zip up method, which is simply where you're going to zip up your energetic field like you're zipping up a parka. Go from the base of your spine up over the top of your head and just do it 3 times. And treat it like you're brushing your teeth, where you're going to do it twice a day and more if needed. It's not going to be one and done. And so, like, if you're in a particularly stressful conversation, it might be time to zip up. It might be time to zip up before you leave for the whatever's happening in the morning, and then maybe you need to zip up again before dinner. So you can kind of feel when in your body you're taking on the energy and emotion of other people, and then you can apply that zip up method. So if the reason you're people pleasing is because you can't stand the other person's disappointment, the zip up method is going to be a game changer. So that would be one place to start. And then thinking about the other reasons that people please. So one reason is, of course, deep empathy. The second reason is we want to be liked. We want to fit in. We want to be needed. We want to be acknowledged or seen. And so if those are the reasons that we're people pleasing, we want to go a little bit deeper inside and find out, where am I not seeing me? Where am I not validating me? Where am I not noticing me? Because when we're looking for those things to come externally, we end up in people pleasing behaviors that's just like a never ending black hole of, we can pour anything we want into that black hole and it's never going to be enough. It has to start with us. And so if that's the reason we're people pleasing, it's going to be a longer journey with more intention set to changing the behavior and validating yourself.
Mm. And it's something very important that you said there is it's a practice, right? you know, life is a practice. It's a growth journeys. And so we're constantly always going to be healing something, you
That's
know?
right.
So I definitely, I learned that, and I definitely encourage people like you said, it's not one and done. So if it takes you a few times, that's okay in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you do it, the better you get, like anything you do when you practice.
That's right. And we want to give ourselves grace and recognize that in the cycle of change, awareness that you need to change is one whole stage. You might not be actually doing anything that you notice when you're in that that cycle, that stage, except being like, "Oh, I need to think about how to change this." That is a whole stage on the cycle of change.
Mm. Yeah, that's an important part. Yeah, one that you said is um yeah, we have to be kind to ourselves. It's a journey, and we're not always going to get it right all the time, and that was one of the hardest lessons. Unfortunately, I had to learn to really just take it easy on myself. Like, it's okay, you don't have to try so hard, and if you don't get it right today, tomorrow's another day, or even the next minute is another chance to start over. And constantly looking at every second I have as a chance to start over.
I love that perspective. And I know somebody named Ali Novitsky, and she talks about do the next right action. Forget about what's happened. Just do the next right action.
Oh yes, absolutely. I second that motion. So, what are the early signs? Because as we talked about earlier, especially being an empath, you're picking up on people's energy. So, what are the early signs of like energy depletion, and how do we one prevent it, or and two, how do we differentiate between our actual emotions and the emotions that we're pulling in?
Yeah. So we've got several layers of questions here. We've got how do we discern what emotion is mine, what's emotion is not? How do we discern what's energetically fueling and energetically depleting? And how do we protect our energy? And so we'll talk about all of those. Let's talk about the fueling part first. If you're doing something, anything, whether it's vacuuming or your taxes or you're creating a podcast, if you are enjoying it, it's fueling. If you can have fun doing it, or find a way to have fun by maybe putting on a great playlist. If you're doing the taxes, that's what I'm going to be doing later. Put on a playlist that I love, so it just makes it fun. If you can conjure a good feeling, it is fueling for you. If you get done with an interaction or a task and you are exhausted, that is an energy leak. That's a drain. And so that would be something to consider. How can you delegate it? How can you delay it? How can you maybe delete it if that's possible? And if you can't delay, delegate, or delete it, how can you make it fun? So, like for me and my taxes, which is really present in my mind, I'm not going to not do my taxes, but I'm going to need to find a way to make it fun so that I can be fueled and not drained. So paying attention to what fuels you and drains you is really important. And I actually have an energy audit for your audience. If they want to go download it, they can track their own energy. And you can get that at brendawinkle.com/audit, AUDIT. And you can pay attention to what's making me feel good, what's making me exhausted or grumpy. Because the exhausted or grumpy feeling is an indicator you're leaking energy. That's an early sign. So if you asked about the early signs, the other thing is fatigue. So if you've ever been in conversation with somebody and then you go home and you're like, I have to go take a nap, you have just been energy vampired. And so when we think about interacting with that kind of a person, we want to make sure we're zipping up our own energy and maybe limiting the interaction. Maybe we don't see them as often or for as long if they're an energy vampire. And depending on the situation, maybe we don't see them at all if that's an option, right?
Mhm. Yes. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. And so then in thinking about, is it mine or is it not? Usually the first sign that something has gone awry is you have a flash of emotion that doesn't make sense. So you're going along with your day, you're having a pretty good day, and next thing you know, you're raging mad. And you have no idea why you're raging mad. That's not yours. That's emotions that you have picked up from someone else. Now, you could insert your emotion of choice there. Maybe it's not mad, maybe it's sad, maybe it's overwhelmed or frustrated or scared. If you have a sudden flash of emotion that makes no sense based on what you're doing, you have absorbed someone else's emotions.
Mm.
Yeah.
So what would you? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that was a lot. Let me take a pause and see what
Yes.
questions.
Okay. Yeah. So what would you say for people in a circumstance where maybe they cannot remove themselves and maybe they're constantly around energy or energies that are draining to them? What could they do on a daily basis to kind of handle that situation?
I love that question because that's real, right? There are many cases where we can't just like walk out on a coworker that's driving us crazy or a family member that's driving us crazy. So we do need to find a way to work with them. So the zip up method, making sure you're zipping up your energy is really important. And then think about things that make you feel really good. If it's a space that you're in all the time, like let's say it's your office, can you add either real or artificial plants? Can you adjust the lighting so that it feels really nice? Maybe you don't like the fluorescent lights overhead. Maybe you can bring in a beautiful lamp. What are the little things you can do to impact your environment? Because energy is everything. So if you can make your environment feel a little bit more conducive to your energy and more supportive for you, it's going to make a big difference in your capacity to tolerate the other negative energies.
Mm, yes. And I noticed how just rearranging your space or adding something like you said can make a huge difference in the energy. Just the act of, like, I remember I was going through, like, I didn't really feel really creative, so I rearranged my studio space, and it felt like a different space, and I only like moved a couple of pieces of furniture around, and it was amazing how clear the energy felt and how inspired I was just by, moving a table over and adding, a light. It was really amazing. So yeah, definitely I agree with bringing something into the space, or just really the fun part of it all. Uh, Thinking of something joyous and adding a certain element of freshness to the situation.
Yeah. And you remind me, joy is resistance. And there's a lot to resist right now. And the more that we can tune into what is it that brings me joy? Is it a song I can put on in my AirPod that just makes me feel so good? Like Lizzo's About Damn Time is kind of my anthem. And so when I need a little pump up, that's what I'll play. And it just makes me feel good. So you can think about what makes you feel really good. Like if it was your song, what would you put on?
Reality. You're in it. Or maybe you're not. Either way, the Intergalactic Council has questions. Like, why does your cat sense breakups before you do? Or why does time bend only when you're in the shower? If you've ever suspected that Earth might just be a simulation, running on vibes and poorly maintained soul contracts, you're not wrong. You're just early. The Council's new initiative invites you to rethink your agreement with real. Join the campaign. Dissolve form. Reinvent identity. We're not offering answers, just better questions. This message is only visible to the curious. The rest, we'll call it déjà vu. The Council welcomes you.
Yeah, I have a good one actually. My morning alarm is set to Spotify, so it'll just play random music. And the other day, it reminded me, it was this song called Happiness. And so that was the first thing I heard when I woke up. And so really, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. It started my day good and I felt really happy. It's one of my favorite albums by one of my favorite bands. But yeah, I was just like, wow, that's amazing just how it just played the first line, but it was the perfect line. And it was like, oh yeah, I feel excited. I feel pumped up for the day just by that little thing, like 10 seconds.
It's so good. And it's such like 10 seconds set the flavor for your whole day.
Exactly. And so, yeah, I definitely like morning routines for me are extremely important to set the energy of the day because even if you're encountering, I notice, stuff, we live life and, we have to do things. So we'll encounter all different types of energies during the day. But if you start your day with intention and meditation for me and walking my dog out in nature for me is like the best first things because the nature walk is the grounding, the meditation is the grounding and checking in with myself and setting the intention for whatever it is I want for the day, whether I just want to feel energized and have a good day. And yeah, it's like stuff will just kind of flow through me more effortlessly with that. Instead of when I have to jump up real quick and get ready and just zoom out the door. Yeah, there's a huge difference in energy.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of research to back that, to back your practices of having the morning routine. And it also relates to how many decisions we make in a day. So if we're consuming things like, let's say we're checking the news or we're logging into social media and we're scrolling, we're actually requiring our brain to make decisions. Do I like this? Do I not like this? Do I believe this? Do I not believe this? And at the end of the day, we have a certain amount of decisions that we can each make. And when that capacity is over, we end up with decision fatigue. And that's why sometimes when you get to dinner time, you're like, I can't make dinner. I don't even know what I want. And why even just scrolling on DoorDash feels hard, That's why. It's because decision fatigue. And so when you can create the morning routines like you were talking about, then you can save some of those decisions for the actual decisions that matter. And instead, you're
Mm,
fueling yourself for your day.
mm. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's powerful. And so let's talk about the importance of trusting over treating yourself within the healing process.
Yeah. Trusting over treating yourself. Is that what? So,
Yes. Yeah.
I think that we live in a culture that encourages us to distrust ourselves. We're encouraged to ask permission to use the bathroom when we're children in school. We're encouraged to eat only on a schedule that is conducive for the impactors in our lives. And by and large, we're kind of socialized to think that somebody outside of me knows what's best for me. And so a lot of the healing process is unlearning that and learning that you actually know everything you need to know right now. You actually have the intuition that you need. You actually know what feels good. You know what fuels you. You know how to heal. It's mostly a matter of giving yourself permission to do the things that you're already thinking about, whether it's walking your dog in the morning or meditating or taking a nap or drinking more water.
Mm, yeah. And so, how do people overcome that? Like, how do they allow themselves to really trust in the process of having to unprogram, unlearn all of these ideologies that were placed upon us? Where do they even begin in that process?
So I'm going to take you to some place that's probably going to surprise you, but it begins with going to the bathroom when you have to go to the bathroom. One of the biggest places we outsource our own inner knowing is by not going to the bathroom when we have to go. We're like, oh, I'll just go at the next break, or I'll just go at lunch. And then we hold it. And when we do that, not only is that bad physiologically for us, but we're also telling ourselves, my body sensations don't matter. They don't mean anything. And then we start to ignore other body sensations too. And the other body sensations might be physical things that are around our wellness, but they might also be intuitive things, like the little flutter in your stomach when something's misaligned. You'll miss it if your bladder's full and you're like, oh my God, I can't laugh because I'm going to pee. If that happens, then we're missing out on all the cues that our intuition is talking to us with. And so it will literally be life-changing if you make yourself a promise to go to the bathroom every time you have to go. That's really like how you can start the whole process.
And as you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's actually a really powerful thing, right? Because uh, in, let's just say, work environments, right? If you're in the middle of the meeting and you're like, I have to finish this, and so I have to hold it, and that starts the process of like ignoring the signs or ignoring our instincts, our intuition, and like our body's telling us, hey, we need to release. And just holding on to that and being like, well, no, we have to wait to this time. And then, like you said, in those moments, I mean, just even think about it, that's like one of our basic needs. So I mean, I'm sure everyone has like been doing something, but then, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, and now your brain is like, bathroom.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that is actually something, but that's what I love about life, right? The simplest things are the most powerful. So
Mm-hmm. I was a teacher for 26 years. And for the first 23 years, I was so resentful because I couldn't go to the bathroom. And I would teach 6 classes and then I would have a lunch break and I could go to the bathroom. And then I would teach 4 classes and then I would be done for the day. So I would teach 10 classes a day. And I was so resentful about not being able to go to the bathroom. And then 3 years before I decided I was going to be complete, I decided I was not going to wait to go to the bathroom. And so I made a decision that I was going to go when I needed to go. And the strangest thing happened. Nobody cared. I had suffered in silence for 23 years. And when I said to different teachers as they were bringing kids into my room, hey, I have to go to the bathroom really quick, I'll be back in 2 minutes, nobody cared. It literally changed my life.
wow, that's powerful. So in that, why do you think resisting our feelings, our emotions, uh well, one, and we kind of just touched on it, but why do we do it? And then how does somatic healing help us in that process of really opening up ourselves to going with the flow of our emotions, trusting them?
Yeah. So it's a little bit about what we've already talked about with the people pleasing, that can really get in the way of us tuning into what's actually true for ourselves and the body wisdom that's coming through for us. And it's also a little bit about admitting that I might feel differently than you about something. And, we're wired to seek community. We're wired to seek acceptance and belonging. And we know biologically that we are potentially in danger if we're not part of the community. And so when we are children and adolescents, we're doing everything we can do to fit in. And then as we become fully formed adults, a lot of times we still desire to fit in more than we desire to find our own autonomy in our own selves. And so we have to get to a point where we love ourselves enough to say to ourselves and to other people, I'm going to take care of me. And I hope that you'll still love me when I do. And it's okay if you don't, because I love myself enough to know that this is what I deserve. And so that's a process. I made it sound simple, like it's one sentence. It's not simple. It's probably a lot of somatic healing and breathwork, energy healing therapy, to come to that place where you can really love yourself enough to believe that you're going to find community, even if you do things a little bit differently than the people around you. And so where somatic coaching comes in is it comes in to enable us to clear the stuck emotions and stuck energy in the body that are really governed by our child parts and our protector parts, thinking about like IFS, internal family systems therapy. I use that model in my somatic coaching where there's little children, parts of us, who we're under trauma at a certain age. And trauma is anything that's too much, too fast, and overrides our nervous system capacity to cope. So by that definition, we have all experienced trauma. Some of us have experienced more than others. The body does not care if it's a capital T or a little t. The body does not care. Inside the body, trauma is trauma is trauma is trauma. The mind and our culture tries to make us feel like big T trauma matters more than little t trauma, but the body and the nervous system, they don't care. It's just trauma. And so when we have a trauma, and it can be something simple, like let's say you're 7, you go up to your mom, she's cooking dinner, and you're like, hey mom, I want to show you my stuff from school. And mom says, I need 5 more minutes to cook dinner. This is not a good time. In little 7-year-old you, who's standing there with the coloring pages that she did in the day, all of a sudden that feels like rejection and abandonment. And it can literally be a trauma in the body. So when we do the somatic healing, we're clearing that stuck emotionality and that stuck energy so that that child part, can become integrated with the whole. And the value in that is if we aren't working with our child parts, and we all have them, if we aren't working with them, they're in control even when we don't think they are.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the time when we, get triggered, and our first, emotional response is usually coming from that inner child, right?
Totally.
Remembering flashbacks that we can't even consciously probably remember, and maybe we can, but subconsciously, like you said, that feeling of, hey, I have something to show you, no, not right now, rejection, that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was totally stuck in a part last Thursday. I mean, and we all have parts. I just want to normalize that. We all have parts. We have protector parts. We have child parts. And my child part got triggered by another podcaster who asked me to share her podcast. And I felt myself like as an 8-year-old. And I was imagining myself with my hands on my hips and just like throwing a tantrum, like, what about my podcast? And I heard myself say that inwardly, and I'm like, oh, Brenda, you're stuck in a part. What is happening right now? And so I had to really find that little 8-year-old self inside of me that just wanted to be seen. And then as soon as I acknowledged that, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll share the podcast. It's fine.
Acknowledgement, yeah, it's powerful, right? Because it's not all the time about, and like, how can I put it? It's not about actively healing in that moment. Sometimes it's something just as simple as, like you said, acknowledging your feelings, and through
Mm-hmm.
that, healing comes. But it doesn't always have to be like you recognize something and now you got to put in the work. It's just like, I see you. Just simple as seeing. Uh, that can be powerful. But like I said, it's like simple things and the
Mm-hmm.
questions we ask ourselves, uh, asking the right questions, right, can lead to us having a better understanding about what we're feeling in that moment. And so, just if your healing journey had a theme song right now, like, what would be the theme song for your journey?
Well, I think it would be a compilation album because I think that the songs would change through time. So I think that my original song would be Girls Just Want to Have Fun. I think that was like my teenage healing anthem. Yeah, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. And then I was born in the 70s. And so I was like in my 20s in the 90s when Meredith Brooks' Bitch came out. That was a theme song for a lot of years. Loved that song. And now my theme song for the last several years, ever since it came out, is Lizzo's "About Damn Time." Like, let's
Mm,
do it.
mm, mm. Oh, yeah, that's nice. And yeah, oh boy, my brain is glitching. Compilation is perfect, right? Because we're constantly going through stages in our life. And when I was thinking about this question, I reflected upon mine, and it's like also through the songs you can see like the growth that you've had at different periods in your life, you know.
Totally. What's yours? I'd love to know.
So okay, so I guess in my youth, I was I was a very super emo child. So in the beginning, it was like Linkin Park's "Crawling in My Skin." When I was a kid, I was like, yes, you're singing to my soul. And then in my teenage years, that's when I actually the song that I woke up to, I found them during that time. So the happiness song actually is and is still one of my favorite songs. And right now, actually one that has been playing a lot, this just came up for me, is Cosmic Warrior. I was like, yeah, I feel
Mm.
that.
Oh, that's so cool. That's fitting.
Yeah, so yeah, and even from that, it's like I said, the progression, because like I was a real little emo kid. But then coming out of that stage to a more happy, exciting time to more of a I know my purpose area. So yeah,
Mhm.
just that journey in itself is kind of awesome to see
It
on my.
is.
So in that, like, what do you think the role of play? How important is that in the healing journey? Like, why do we need laughter? Why do we need to have fun and have that light energy from time to time?
Well, I feel like joy is our job. Like, really, I believe to my core, joy is our job. We are in this human incarnation and it's supposed to be fun. And if we're not finding little moments of joy here and there, I think we're missing the point. And so I feel like it's essential. And you can find moments of play in anything. Like earlier today, I was on a walk and I have this playlist called High Vibes. And I just pushed shuffle and I was just walking along, singing out loud, walking my dog, and it was just fun and it felt light and it was shifting some heavy energy that I'd come in from a different call on. And I felt new. I felt like, oh, okay, this is a fresh start. And so even that kind of play is fun. But then the other thing that play does is it can show us where our limits are. It can show us where we have belief barriers and we have an opportunity to shift those. So like last week, for example, I was in Grand Cayman and I was telling myself, I'm not coming to Grand Cayman and doing something in the ocean that I can't do in Portland, Oregon. And
Uh,
so I went to Stingray City and I swam with the stingrays, which is why I named my ship the Stingray, because it just was a life changing moment to like hold a stingray in my arms and to like have its skin touch my skin. And I thought to myself, this is cool. Like, this is play. And it pushes limits when we play and it ignites our imagination and our creativity and our flow, and fun attracts fun. So when you're having fun, you're going to attract more fun people and then fun is going to build.
mm, yes, I love that. And that was something like I real enjoy having like a childlike energy, but life got really serious for like a decade where I was like forgetting about hobbies and all of these things that I feel are essential. Like we all need hobbies. And yeah, I got to a point where I'm like, I don't know the last time I just, did something random without needing a certain result. Like I don't know the last time I sat in front of my computer and gamed just for the sake of gaming, or, just really had fun. It was all about work, 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 you know? And one day I woke up and I realized, like I said, it had been like 10 years. And I'm like, wow, something has to change. And the moment I decided to relax and not take life so seriously and find the joy in all the present moments, like you said, fun attracts fun, good high vibes attracts high vibes. And life shifted for me very drastically. And then, everything is energy, so people pick up on that. And so, yeah, but having fun is definitely important. Having a hobby is so important. Like, I'm like, I find a hobby, um, but for the longest time, I was like, that hobby is not paying the bills. So, no. But yeah, I had to learn um, that important. And so earlier we were talking about breath work. I want to get back into that. And you were talking about blockages, energy blockages in the body. So how does breath work regulate the nervous system and clear stored trauma? Like, what is that process?
So, breath work is, for simple definition, it's where we take control of what's normally an autonomic process. Normally, we don't have to think about breathing. Our bodies just do it on their own. And when we take control over this autonomic process, we can release stuck emotion. We can actually change the composition of our blood gases. You can actually change the pH balance of your blood. We can lower anxiety. We can reduce blood pressure. We can increase heart rate variability, all through the breath. And so what's happening as we do this breath work, and I'm not talking like a minute of breath, I'm talking like 7 minutes of breath work and beyond, although there's benefit to 1 minute of breath. But what we're doing is we're taking the body out of a stress state and putting the body back into a rest and digest state by releasing the stuck emotions, the tension. And when we do that, sometimes we just need a little bit, like it's unlocking, and we can unlock the emotions and they flow out, which is why sometimes when people engage in breath work, they feel like they want to cry, and maybe they do cry, or maybe they get really angry. And it's just simply because we've taken down the resistance to feeling the emotions by getting into the body through the breath, and then they flow. And so the cool thing is, even if you have an emotional experience during breath, you'll flow through it. You just breathe through it, and next thing you know, you're going to feel like $1,000,000.
Yeah, there have been some times because yeah, I'm definitely big on breath work because I was diagnosed with asthma as a youth, and really didn't have too many symptoms until I caught COVID. And then it was like, oh, I have asthma. Like, so
Mm.
that like saved my life. And in that, like you said, uh, let's talk about like the pH balance, like the practice. I tried many different methods. Wim Hof was the first one I was introduced to, and through the breath work, like I could see how it would change my mood and how
Mm-hmm.
I would feel lighter and more clear, have more clarity. And also, I could literally feel myself like any blockages in my lungs, removing them. So yeah, I definitely practice breath work every day. Um, and like even in moments where I may feel a bit of anxiety or, I'll just take a minute and do like 3 deep breaths and just kind of center myself again, even just those, let's say like 5 seconds are, will change my whole perspective right then and there in that
Mm-hmm.
moment. So yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it comes back to the nervous system. So when we have basically 2 nervous systems, we have the somatic nervous system and we have the autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system is the things that happen without us thinking, like our stomach digests things, our hormones fluctuate. It happens without us controlling it. The somatic system is everything else. So like our arms can move, our legs can move, and the breath is the one piece that can go back and forth between the autonomic and the somatic system, which is what makes it really profound. And so when we're breathing, what we're telling the body is it's safe for you to bring the vagus nerve back online. Because when we're in a stress state, the vagus nerve turns off. It's the largest nerve in your body. It's not one straight line, it's like a tree, and it goes basically from the base of your spine to the base of your skull. And when that turns off because you're in a stress state, all of the systems that it manages suffer just a little bit. Your digestion, your heart rate, your ability to swallow or speak clearly, your ability to think clearly, all of that starts to suffer because of the stress. So if we can bring the vagus nerve back online through the breath, which is what you're talking about, even in the 2 to 3 minute practice, all of a sudden we can think clearly. We can digest our food again. Our stomach upset will go away. It's like magic.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. I can definitely attest to that. And so, like, what would be a simple technique that you would offer people to do every day just to kind of reset them, I guess, and prepare them for the day?
I love super simple. And so the super simple breath practice that I would invite people to just try and experiment with is in through the nose, out through a mouth, set a timer for 2 to 5 minutes. Keep it super simple, because if it's simple, you'll do it again. And you can set a timer with like your phone so it goes off, or you can set a timer of a song that you love and just breathe for the whole song and use the song as a timer. But that 2 to 5 minutes, it'll be game changing.
Oh yeah, I love that. I definitely love simple. One of my favorite ways is like if I don't have time, 5 minute meditations because you know 30 minutes would be great, but every day I don't have 30 minutes.
That's
So
right. That's right.
that 5 minutes is just sometimes all you need.
You can even take it walking. Like, let's say
Mm,
you're commuting and you're walking. You can even put a song on and you can do breath to the music as you walk.
that's a good one. Yeah. And so tell me a bit about your podcast, uh, your Yes Filled Life. What inspired you to begin that project?
So, I left an abusive marriage in 2007, and I had outsourced my power, my agency, my preferences, my desires. I had outsourced it all, I had given it away. And I didn't even know who I was, what I liked when I got out of that marriage. And I just learned bit by bit by bit about myself again. Like, I learned I love lemon. I didn't know that when I was married. I learned I don't prefer roast beef. Didn't know that when I was married. And so it was just this journey of exploration. And I felt myself being like, yes, when I discovered things about myself, or when I did something that felt like it pushed an edge for me, or I experienced something new, or I did something I didn't think I could do before, it was that yes feeling. So that's the yes filled life, is that feeling of, oh my gosh, I did it. I wanted to do it. I did it. I chose it. I chose me. And so the premise of the podcast is, how do we create more of that feeling more of the time in our normal everyday lives?
Mm. If there's something that you could say yes to right now, what would it be?
Hmm. What would it be? Well, I'm going to Sedona next week for the very first time. I've never visited Sedona before, so I'm super excited. And there is a train ride through the valley,
Oh yeah.
and I really want to take it. So I think that's going to be one of my more immediate yeses, is taking the train ride through the valley of Sedona.
It's very interesting. I don't know why this year is a heavy. I'm a nomad and I follow other nomads, but there has been heavy focus on train rides this year. Um, yeah, I don't know what that energy is about, but
I don't either.
but that's something weird that I just noticed. Like literally, it's like all this train ride content. But I guess it's kind of like taking it back to the more simpler things, right? We focus on flying to get places quicker, but what about the scenic route? So yeah, I
Mhm.
guess that's my little theory on that anyway.
Yeah, I think you're onto something because it is about like the present moment. How can you allow yourself to be more present and really experience the moment?
Mhm. Yes. So for all the empaths out there listening, what is a practice that they can do every day to help them just reclaim a little bit of their power each day?
I love that. So let's start with the zip up method. I would invite you to make that non negotiable. It's every day brush your teeth and zip up, brush your teeth and zip up, and more if you need it. So that I think is absolutely essential. The other thing is, as an empath, we tend to hold things. We like to hold things for others because we're telling ourselves, I'm helping. Sometimes we are, sometimes we're not. Right? So the thing is, for an empath, the more that we can hold what's ours and hold space for what's not, the more power and agency we have because we're not taking on too much. So the way that I do that is I like to think about the difference between my arms outstretched in a big circle. I'm holding space for something instead of my hands out in front of me with them cupped, like I'm waiting for somebody to put something into my hands. If I'm
Mm,
waiting for somebody to put something into my hands, I'm going to have to hold that thing, but I don't want to hold all the stuff. So instead, I'm going to clasp my hands together. I'm holding my own stuff. I'm going to be witness to everything else. I'm going to hold space for everything else, but I'm not going to hold it in my
mm,
hands. And so, invitation to even like if you're in a meeting and you're getting ready to take on too much, like clasp your hands together and tell yourself, I'm not going to hold this for you. And you can even practice saying, and tone matters. So be careful to practice the tone. Practice saying things like, that sounds like a really big challenge. I know you'll figure it out. Instead of holding it like with our hands, right? Holding it like, oh, let me help you. Let me fix it because I really want to fix
mm,
it. Because if I can fix it, then I know you'll feel better. And then if you feel better, then I'll feel better. And then around and around and around we go as empaths.
mm,
So this is going to be a big challenge. And the thing that's going to come up for most people is they're going to say, but I still want to be compassionate. I still want to be helpful. And I'm going to say, you can be even more helpful when you're not carrying around everybody else's stuff.
mm. Yes. Definitely that's powerful. Even the visualization of that is powerful. For those listening, it if it's cupping the hand, holding on to, you know, whatever was placed upon you or waiting for someone, and the other is clasping your hands together but holding space but not holding on to things. And so just it's really powerful to really think about it in that way of being able to hold space without taking on all of the external energy. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm.
that. So in this all we covered a lot of things, but at this very moment, if you could leave everyone with one message, what would it be?
The thing that I would love for people to know is that you're enough just on your own. You don't have to hold things for people that aren't yours. You don't have to feel things for people that aren't yours. You're enough on your own, and you're doing enough just by managing your own emotionality. And by showing up in the world with your deep empathy and compassion, that is true leadership. You don't need to take on anything that's not yours.
Mm, yes. That's perfectly said. And I think a lot of the themes here are really we just have to really hold space for ourselves as much as we hold space for other
Mm-hmm.
people,
Mm-hmm.
putting ourselves first because you can't give from an empty cup. All of these things. But really, it's, I've learned to be focused on self, like putting yourself first, is not only for your benefit, but is for the benefit of those around you. It definitely shows out, but it may not seem that way in the beginning because it's a little radical for you to be like, well, no, I come first. People look at you like, what do you mean? But then when people start seeing you put yourself first and just how that changes your energy, then they start saying, okay, well, maybe they got a little something going on there with that.
That's right. Exactly. And sometimes we just have to remember not everybody is going to like you putting yourself first. And you have to ask yourself, if somebody has a problem with you putting yourself first, why do they have that problem? Because think about how much you want the people you love to put themselves first. And so then they're benefiting from you not putting yourself first.
Yeah, very important point you made. And something that's been coming up a lot is just asking ourselves the right questions because it really will reveal so much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you got to ask the right questions. And that comes in, as you stated earlier, removing ourselves from being the victim and really beginning to want to nurture ourselves, I guess, in that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, if people wanted to find you, they wanted to work with you, how would they do that?
Probably the best way would be go to the website. It's brendawinkle.com. And I am active on I am active on Instagram, and I'm there at Brenda Winkle, Winkle. And I'm also on TikTok, but I'm just kind of getting that figured out over there. So but yeah, come say hi. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm basically on all the socials except for I'm not on X.
Oh. But okay, awesome. So yeah, they can find you, and there will be a QR code with all the links, so you can scan that. And for everyone listening, it will be in the description here. Oh, and lastly, so where does the universe guide you next?
you know, with everything that's changing around us and with the new earth coming, I just feel compelled to guide empathic and visionary leaders into their truest leadership. And so I'm just committed to doing this work on a bigger and bigger scale.
And that is fantastic because definitely, as you just stated, we are shifting. This has been happening for quite some time now, but I feel this year has been like uh, definitely a ramp up. So I feel like
Yeah,
people, yeah, it's been crazy. I'm like, it's already about to be March. What's happening? Uh, and the energies have just been, I think April is going to be just rapid movement. But in that, there's a lot of people right now that are awakening to their authentic selves, to their purpose, and they're wanting that direction.
mhm,
They're curious, they're open. And so now is the perfect time for people like you to really guide them because I feel like there's some awesome people that are just need a little direction, some help, and to know that you got it because I cannot stress enough. This is like a super new time, and anything that you want to do, you can do.
that's right.
Trust me, anything you want to do, you can do. So, whatever you need to work through, this is the time to do it. And that's why we have awesome people like you, especially for the empaths, especially for visionaries, because that can be difficult when you're so forward thinking. It can feel isolating and all of those things. You could even begin to question yourself, like, because if you can't see it because you're a visionary, you're creating this new
Hmm.
path,
Hmm.
uh, it's like, well, where's the blueprint? But one thing I've noticed is the awesome thing is you can create your own.
That's right. That's right. And there's a stage at the awakening process that you start to wonder if you're losing your mind.
Yeah.
And just want to name that and normalize that if that's happening to you, you're normal. And no, you're not losing your mind. You actually are perceiving things in a new way because you've been gifted with new abilities, because you're open to them.
Yeah, excuse me, I'm glad you said that. Yeah, because it can, and like I said, with this time where everything is open and moving rapidly, and so you might just, all of a sudden open yourself up to experiencing life in a different perspective and like, whoa, what is happening? So yeah, there is help out here. You definitely aren't crazy. And if you are, then we're all crazy, right? But no, you're perfectly fine. And this is just a new time. And there's so many resources available. And if you're listening, then you're here for a reason. You needed to receive this transmission. And so, yeah, like I said, your work is awesome, is definitely much needed. So we appreciate you. We appreciate your energy and just the love that I can feel that you're offering to the world.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I have loved this conversation. I have loved getting to come aboard your spaceship, and am so grateful to be here and to have been able to spend this time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And it was a pleasure having you. And you guys, this has been another awesome transmission of just love and self acceptance. And know that you are worth it. So until next time, guys, awaken, ascend, activate. Archive that. And remind me to invite them to a space lunch.
Adding to contact list.
Where to next, Arden?
Next coordinates locked. 1 quantum mechanic, 2 artificial intelligences, and a whole lot of broken belief systems. Plotting course for Vangelis Kalogiru. Prepare to expand. Everything.